I made a mistake when I booked this cabin on the Carnival Panorama, but honestly, it might have been the best mistake I've ever made. Little did I know that I picked the cabin that is now my absolute favorite cabin ever, while also being the worst. Because of its jaw-dropping balcony that is way bigger than even the priciest Grand Suite balconies. Now, stay tuned as I give you a full tour of cabin 8472, a Havana Premium Vista Balcony cabin HM, along with all the quirks and features, the pros and cons for this unique cabin that many cruisers have no clue what it's about. My name is Ruben and I love cruising on Carnival and sharing my tips and adventures with all of you. I have almost 100 days at sea just with Carnival and I've stayed in this cabin last month so that I can give you the scoop. Oh, and if you are curious which ship I'm on, well, it's the Panorama. If you have never been on the Panorama, check out this playlist for a full ship tour and more. First impressions. The second you open the door to cabin 8472, you can just feel that something is, well, different. You are immediately greeted by this unusual layout, and the typical long rectangular room you are used to on a cruise ship is a little different. This is a Havana Premium Vista Balcony cabin, category HM, tucked away on deck 8 on the port side aft corner. And this unique shape is your very first clue that you might have hit jackpot. As you walk in, there's a little entryway. To your left are these closets with a surprise that I will get back to later. The first thing you notice is that the cabin almost feels split in two. With the bed smack dab in the center, you notice there are also these huge windows that flood the room with natural light, sometimes that you don't even really get on a balcony cabin. There's one window right above the bed and another over on this side. And there is also this floor to ceiling window on the door to the balcony. More on that later. Looking at the deck plans, you realize this is no standard cabin. This is a very unique corner cabin, which makes it feel way bigger than even your standard cabin, and yet smaller at the same time. Interior cabin tour. All right, let's take a look around the inside, because while the balcony is definitely the star of the show, the interior has some quirks and features all of its own. First up is the living space. One of the first things you notice is the decor. It feels way nicer than your standard cabin, and it feels a lot more like a home than a hotel. Of course, I opted to have the two twins pushed together to make this comfy king. There are two nightstands on both sides with their own reading lights, which is a nice touch. One of the cons is that this cabin does not have a sofa, which is probably one thing that I look forward to most in a cabin. However, you do get these chairs and it is nice sitting and looking out the huge windows. You have your standard desk that is in the upgraded Havana style. It is kind of interesting having your cabin split in two, and because of how the triangle cabin is organized, you kind of have to sneak by the bed to get from one side of the cabin to the other. To me, this was a little bit annoying and made the cabin feel a little smaller than it looks when you're walking around. Now the bathroom. I will be honest, it's your standard cruise ship bathroom. You do get the nicer LMS toiletries just like Cloud9 and Suites get. However, I'm still bougie and I bring my own shampoo and conditioner as I prefer this brand. One thing about being in a Havana cabin is access to the Havana area. I'm going to talk about that later. And in our Havana cabins, you do get these two plush Havana branded bathrobes to use during your cruise, which adds a little bit of luxury you wouldn't get in a normal, even balcony cabin. Suite-like balcony. Speaking of suites, let's find out what makes this cabin so much better than most suites, if not all of them. And that is this aft wraparound balcony. When you open the door and step out, it feels like you enter your own private deck. This isn't just a balcony. It is a sprawling 75 square foot wraparound veranda. To give you some perspective, a standard balcony on the Panorama is 35 square feet. This is more than double the size. Even the extended aft view balconies are smaller. Those are only 60 square feet. Now, when I took photos and videos out here, a lot of people thought that I was just on one of the public decks because there's just so much room. The space is incredible. Because it wraps around the corner of the ship, you don't just have room for 2 chairs and that tiny little table. You have a full-size lounger, the same ones that you get on the Lido deck. You have a shorter lounger, just like you get in the other Havana balconies, 2 balcony chairs, and 2 coffee tables. That's more furniture than suite balconies. One important thing to note about the balconies is that most, if not all, of the other Havana balcony cabins, including the suites, have these really short and awkward lounge chairs. They are really awkward and weird to sit in, and that's another huge pro for this unique balcony. Oh, and the space, it is completely unheard of for a non-suite cabin. Because it is a corner balcony, you have all of the amazing aft views as well as your traditional balcony side cabin views. The privacy is another huge concern, and being on a higher deck helps out. Since you are on a corner, you are farther away from next door neighbors on each side. The only balcony that you can see onto this one is on deck 9. You do have some great views of the Havana area below. See all of this? This is the exclusive Havana pool area below, and you are high enough on deck 8 that it feels pretty secluded even though you still feel part of the ship. Now, I have stayed in my share of balcony cabins, and while they are nice, I actually don't spend as much time out there as a lot of other people. However, I did find that I spent a ton of time out here because of all the space as well as the amazing views. There is just so much room. When you walk out here, it feels like being on deck 10, having it all to yourself. There are no crowds. You can read, eat some food, or enjoy the beautiful scenery. It is amazing, and this balcony alone takes the entire cruise from, oh, that's good, to absolutely unforgettable. It is a suite-sized outdoor living room attached to a balcony-priced cabin. Here's a quick request from me. If this video is helpful to you, please consider sharing it with your cruising friends. It helps me a lot with the YouTube algorithm to help me grow and get my videos out to more people like yourself. Unlocking the Havana Perks. This massive balcony is reason enough to book this cabin. However, the perks do not stop there. Because this is a Havana category cabin, it comes with exclusive access to this private Havana area. You can see the Havana area here down on deck 5. Let's go check it out. While the main Lido deck pools are buzzing with music, people, and energy, the Havana area is a quieter oasis reserved for guests 12 and older who are staying in a Havana cabin. It has its own pool, 2 jacuzzis, a dedicated bar, and tons of comfy lounge chairs and these secluded, shaded clamshells. Even though our sailing was full or pretty close to full, this area never felt full or crowded. Now, if you shy away from crowds or don't want to fight your way to a lounge chair, this is the spot for you. Now, if you have ever stayed on the Firenze or Venezia, you might be familiar with the terrazza cabins, and this is very similar. However, one big difference is that the terrazza cabins or the terrazza area opens up to the public at 7 p.m., while the Havana area is exclusive 24/7. Pricing and comparisons. Okay, so one of your biggest questions might be, how much more is this? Well, I picked a random low price cruise and saw an interior cabin at just under $600, and this cabin was almost $2,000. I did check out pricing for all of the other cabins, so if you want me to do a pricing comparison breakdown across many different cabins, let me know. Now stay tuned to the end and I will tell you how much I paid and if I got a great deal or not. The pros and cons, an honest breakdown. To give you the complete picture, let's lay out the pros and cons without any sugarcoating. Pros, the balcony. Without a doubt, hands down, the #1 reason to book this cabin is the balcony. That 75 square foot wraparound space with 2 full loungers, oh my gosh, it is a dream. Balcony loungers. One of the added perks of this larger balcony are the normal size lounge chairs versus the super short and awkward ones that the other Havana balconies have. Havana pool access. This could be a game changer. This exclusive quiet pool, jacuzzis, and bar provide a true luxurious experience that you cannot get elsewhere on the ship. The view. The panoramic aft wake view is, well, one of the best views on the ship. It is mesmerizing people, peaceful, and completely unobstructed. You can get some amazing photos and videos here. The value. You are getting legitimate suite level perks for a price that's lower than an actual suite. The location. This is both a pro and a con depending on your preferences. It's a pro if you stick mostly to the Havana or aft area of the ship and you like having a quiet cabin where you do not have many guests walking around. Cons. The location. As I just said before, the location can be a pro or a con. The con is that being in the extreme back of the ship means that it's a long walk to places like the front of the ship, the main theater, or the spa. If you have mobility issues, this could be something to consider. Interior size. Now, let's be real. This cabin's interior is still only 185 square feet, the same as a standard balcony. What's weird is that it feels both bigger and smaller at the same time. Because of the way the bed cuts the room in two, the cabin feels bigger, but with less usable space. Age restrictions. The Havana area is only for guests 12 and older, so this cabin is not really an option for families with younger kids. The bathroom. Well, it's a standard cruise ship bathroom. It does a job perfectly fine, but it is not the spacious, fancy bathroom that you would find in a suite with a tub. Final verdict. So, what's the final verdict on cabin 8472 on the Carnival Panorama? Well, before I tell you my thoughts, let me know what you think in the comments below. Would you book it? Why or why not? Now, I am probably a unique case because I still prioritize my budget above everything else, and I would rather cruise more often in a lower grade cabin. So, even though I absolutely love this cabin, the cost of $2,000 versus a standard interior at $600, I will probably stick to the interior. However, the reason I got this cabin was because Alice in the Upgrade Fairy called me and offered me this upgrade for only $300 from an interior cabin. For that price, I would do it again in a heartbeat because that is an amazing deal for this cabin. Now, if you want to check out all of the other cabins on the Panorama, check out this video here.